My name is Emily. My son, Oliver, has always been my pride. He's a budding photographer here in London, chasing his dreams with relentless passion. I've seen him stay up late editing photos, tirelessly hunting for the perfect shot. So when he approached me with his latest project, I didn't think twice, at first. It was a rainy afternoon when Oliver brought it up. We were sitting in our cozy living room, the sound of raindrops hitting the windows as he nervously twirled a pencil in his fingers. "Mum, I need a favor," he said, his voice laced with hesitation. I laughed, brushing it off, thinking he'd ask for help tidying his studio or maybe cooking something for his friends. But his next words caught me off guard. "I need a model for a competition," he said. "And, well, I was hoping you could help." I stared at him, unsure if he was serious. Me? A model? At my age? I told him there were plenty of professionals in London, but he explained his budget wouldn't allow it. He said he wanted the photos to feel real, authentic, and who better than his own mother? The way he looked at me, with those hopeful eyes, it was hard to say no. I reluctantly agreed, though a part of me felt unsure. What would people think? Would this be embarrassing? But Oliver was so excited. His eyes lit up, and he started rambling about his vision, elegance, strength, and a story behind every frame. It was endearing, really. He was so passionate that I couldn't help but smile. The shoot took place the next day in his little home studio. He had transformed it into a beautiful space, soft lighting, warm tones, and an air of creativity. "Relax, Mum," he said as he adjusted the camera. "Just be yourself." I laughed nervously, trying to ease the tension. He handed me a selection of outfits, all modest but elegant, and as I changed into the first one, I couldn't help but chuckle at how ridiculous I felt. But when the shoot began, something shifted. Oliver was in his element, giving directions with confidence. "Tilt your head slightly. Perfect. Now, look over your shoulder." His compliments made me feel at ease, and soon, we were laughing and joking between shots. "Mum, you've got a hidden talent for this," he teased. I rolled my eyes but secretly felt a little proud. By the end of the session, I was exhausted but happy. Oliver hugged me and said, "Thank you, Mum. These photos are going to make my portfolio shine." His enthusiasm was contagious, and I thought, maybe this small act could help him achieve something great. That night, as I lay in bed, the reality of the day sunk in. Had I done the right thing? Modeling for my son's project felt odd, but it also felt like an act of love. I told myself it was a simple favor, one I'd laugh about later. Little did I know, this favor would change everything. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning, and I was halfway through sorting paperwork at my desk when my phone buzzed. It was a message from my friend, Clara. "Emily, you look stunning in those photos Oliver posted." "Such elegance," she wrote, followed by a string of heart emojis. For a moment, I was puzzled. Photos? What photos? Curiosity tugged at me, so I clicked the link she'd attached. It took me to Oliver's online portfolio, and there they were, images from our little photo shoot. The photos were beautiful, I couldn't deny that. The lighting was perfect, and Oliver had captured me in a way that felt almost surreal. But as I scrolled, unease crept in. I hadn't known he was going to post these. Had I agreed to this? The comments below the images were a mix of admiration and intrigue. "Such timeless beauty," one read. "A powerful story in every frame," said another. I should have felt flattered, but instead, I felt exposed. These weren't just photos to me. They were intimate moments shared between a mother and her son, moments that I hadn't intended for the world to see. I couldn't focus on work after that. By lunchtime, I decided I needed to confront Oliver. When I got home, he was in his studio, editing more photos. I walked in, holding my phone up as proof. "Oliver, why didn't you tell me you were going to post these?" He looked up, startled. "Mum, it's for the competition. I wanted to surprise you." They needed an online submission, and I thought you'd be proud. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. I understand you needed to submit something, but don't you think I had a right to know? These are personal, Oliver. They're not just photos, they're me. He sighed, setting his camera down. Mum, you're overthinking this. The photos are tasteful. It's not like they're inappropriate or anything. People love them. Look at the comments. That's not the point. I snapped, my voice rising. This isn't about how others see them. It's about how I feel. You should have asked me first. It's about respect, Oliver. He rolled his eyes. You're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. I didn't mean any harm. I wanted to keep arguing, but the look on his face stopped me. He genuinely believed he'd done nothing wrong. Frustrated, I left the studio and went upstairs, hoping some space would cool my anger. That evening, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was an anonymous message. Thought you should know, Oliver's using your photos for sympathy votes in the competition. My struggling mom angle? Not cool. My heart sank. Was this true? Did Oliver use me not just as a model but as a pawn? I stared at the screen, unsure of how to feel, hurt, betrayed, or just disappointed. One thing was certain, I needed answers. I couldn't sleep that night, the anonymous message replaying in my mind over and over. By morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I went straight to Oliver's studio, clutching my phone tightly in my hand. He was editing again, earbuds in, completely unaware of the storm brewing. Oliver, I called, sharper than I intended. He looked up, startled. I held up my phone, the message glaring on the screen. Care to explain this? He froze, his face betraying his unease. Where did you get that? He asked, his voice quieter now. It doesn't matter where I got it, I shot back. What matters is if it's true. Did you use our photos to tell some sob story about your struggling single mom just to gain sympathy votes? For a moment, he said nothing. Then, with a heavy sigh, he nodded. I didn't mean it in a bad way, Mum. I just thought it would make the submission more personal, you know? More relatable. Relatable? His words felt like a slap. You exploited our life, Oliver. You took something private, something I trusted you with, and twisted it for your benefit. Do you even realize how humiliating this is? My voice cracked, the hurt spilling over. I wasn't trying to humiliate you, he snapped, defensive now. I just wanted to stand out. Do you have any idea how competitive this industry is? Everyone's looking for a story. I thought it'd help. Help? I scoffed, the word bitter on my tongue. Do you think this is the kind of help I wanted? You didn't even ask me, Oliver. You made me a character in your story without my permission. He looked away, guilt creeping onto his face. I'm sorry, he muttered, barely audible. But sorry wasn't enough. Not this time. You've crossed a line, Oliver. You've disrespected me, and worse, you've made me question the kind of person you're becoming. The tension between us was unbearable. I couldn't even look at him as I walked out of the studio. That evening, after hours of agonizing over what to do, I decided to contact the competition organizers. It wasn't an easy decision, but I couldn't let this slide. I explained everything in an email, attaching proof of the submission and detailing how I had been unknowingly dragged into this mess. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I knew it was the right thing. Oliver needed to learn that actions have consequences. A week later, the letter arrived. I opened it with trembling hands, Oliver standing beside me, his face pale with anxiety. Dear Mr. Oliver Whitmore, it began, we regret to inform you that your submission has been disqualified due to false representation of the subject's circumstances. I handed him the letter, my heart aching as I watched him read it. His dreams of the competition were over, but I hoped the lesson he'd learn would be worth it. For both our sakes. I found Oliver sitting on the floor of his studio, the disqualification letter crumpled in his hand. His head was bowed, his shoulders slumped, and for the first time in a long while, he looked like the little boy who used to run to me when things went wrong. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking. "I messed up. I'm so sorry." The rawness in his voice broke my heart, but I held firm. "Why, Oliver? Why would you do this? You know I'd do anything to support you, but this was wrong." He looked up at me, his eyes brimming with tears. "I got caught up in it all. I wanted to win so badly. I thought if I added a story, it'd make my work stand out. But I didn't think about what it would do to you, to us." His words were sincere, and I could see the weight of his guilt. I took a deep breath, the anger and hurt giving way to a desire to teach him something lasting. "Oliver, I forgive you," I said softly. His eyes widened, the relief palpable. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. There need to be boundaries, between what's personal and what's professional, between respect and ambition. You can't lose sight of your values, no matter how much you want something." He nodded, wiping his face. "You're right. I see that now. I don't just want to win, I want to win in a way that I can be proud of, that you can be proud of." I sat beside him on the floor, the weight between us lifting slightly. "So let's fix this," I said. "We'll start over. You're talented, Oliver. Let's show the world what you can do without shortcuts." That evening, we spread out his photos on the dining table, critiquing them together. Oliver listened intently, his usual defensiveness gone. We brainstormed new ideas, ones that reflected his creativity and passion, not fabricated stories. As we worked, I saw glimpses of the boy I'd always been so proud of, the one who used to spend hours experimenting with his camera in our backyard. The Oliver who was driven, not desperate. By the time we finished, it felt like a new chapter had begun. "Thank you, Mum," he said, hugging me tightly. "For everything. I'll make it up to you, I promise." "I know you will," I replied, holding him close. Later that night, as I sat in my room, I reflected on everything that had happened. I realized how important it is to set boundaries, even with the people you love most. Compromising on your values isn't love, it's enabling. To those watching, I want you to remember this: staying true to yourself is never negotiable. And when someone you love crosses a line, it's okay to forgive, but it's just as important to hold them accountable. That's how we grow. That's how we heal.